So tell me a little bit about Against the Stream.
Against the Stream Buddhist Meditation Society was started by Noah Levine, who is a Buddhist teacher in the lineage of Jack Kornfield, and before that the Thai forest monks. And it's been in Los Angeles, I think now for about 8 years, and it was sort of born out of the Dharma punks movement. Actually, some of the teachers in New York in particular still teach under that moniker of Dharma punks, which was Noah's memoir that he wrote. And since then, he wrote a book, Against the Stream, which kind of focused a little bit more on just sort of his take on Buddhism. And he wrote Heart of the Revolution. I think I'm getting in the right order. Heart of the Revolution, which is about heart practices, kind of his loving kindness book. And now his latest book is Refuge Recovery.
Excellent book.
I'm liking it. And that's his basically using the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, as a path to recover from addiction.
So how did you meet Noah and his approach?
Noah and I met probably about 25 years ago. And what happened was 25 years ago, I was introduced to Zen Buddhism and started sitting Zen. And one of his closest, he's actually running the Sangha in New York, a man named Josh Korda. He and I knew each other in like the 80s in New York when things went wrong terribly at times. But we made music together and things like that. But anyway, so Noah and I just kept bumping into each other at different times. And then eventually, really just 2 years ago, he's like, hey, you want to take a look at this Vipassana world and just train with me and kind of do that. And then at the same time, both of us had this crazy idea of Buddhist Rehab. And so we started talking about that more fully. His idea was much more fully developed because he was well into developing refuge recovery. And then, so we've become closer over the last couple of years, and then we're working together very hard on this rehab.
So tell me about Buddhist Rehab. What does it look like?
It kind of, well, I was going to say it looks like other rehabs, but in some ways it doesn't. I would say that, first off, the clients are meditating an average of an hour and a half a day.
Oh, wow.
And this is an outpatient setting. So that's a lot of the day. And they're getting, in the morning, they're getting their groups from Dharma teachers. But Dharma teachers, one who's a somatic experiencing practitioner, and the other who is got a deep expertise in attachment theory. And as a matter of fact, does a whole 10-month course. He does a lot of 10-month courses. But one of them is about, attachment theory and Buddhist practice, and the other is addiction interventions that are born out of attachment theory and mindfulness. So there's a strong Buddhist teaching going on in the morning, and then in the afternoons, there's some, I still do anger management like I do at other treatment centers that I've done, but it's got a distinct Buddhist side to it, and so it's a lot more quiet than other rehabs maybe because.
But you also mentioned in a previous conversation, movement is a big part of what you do.
Yes.
So 5 Rhythms there, right?
Yes, 5 Rhythms has been through there, and yoga is there, and we're still working on building that even further. We're about a year into it. We're getting bigger and bigger, and we're probably going to be expanding to other locations, and we're going to have residential, and we're going to have we're detox as well. We're not going to be doing too much other than detoxing and detox, but so there's going to be more opportunities for more movement and more integrative body experiences. That when Noah and I ran into each other with the same ideas, his focus was, of course, just refuge recovery and the Buddhist rehab, and my focus was I really wanted a holistic scene. I wasn't necessarily thinking Buddhist rehab, but I was thinking a lot of mindfulness in addition to body therapies.
Lovely. So what would you say, especially to somebody who's new in recovery, who's kind of fascinated by this meditation scene, Buddhism, mindfulness, not sure if it's for them? What advice would you give them about getting started?
So first off is you'll get a different answer from me and from just about everyone else in the refuge community. Like there's just so many viewpoints, which I
like that,
love.
though, yeah.
Oh, no, I totally love it.
That's awesome.
And
As
so
opposed to the robot.
Right,
answer.
you look this
Yeah.
way. So my thing is, I'm the both and guy.
Love it.
Someone come in who said, look, I like this whole meditation thing that you're talking about, but I'm kind of Christian, and so is that okay? And we're like, well, we don't care, and I want to go to 12-step meetings. So please go to the 12-step meetings. This person was baptized during the time he was in the refuge recovery program. So that's how both and we are
I dig that.
in that regard. So anyway, so I'm both and. So my feeling is that whichever modality leads you to a comfortable place where you can meditate, that's where you go. So if the 12 steps lead you to develop a meditation practice,
Guided prayer meditation, yeah.
that's kind of what they were peddling there. And then if the Buddha is really attracting you, like I imagine that when I got sober many years ago, if refuge recovery existed, I would have been intrigued.
Me too.
And now it's there. So I just would suggest that, and this is my own prejudice / preference, is that meditation has been the key, for me. It's just the core of it. And when I look at, I always like to say, and I say this in the groups at Refuge a lot, is, 3/8 of the Eightfold Path is meditation. That's a significant amount of, a path of life.
Right.
So, and then going back to a previous conversation you and I had, my thing has been, in the Zen tradition, we keep our eyes open. So it was an easy go to, don't traumatize people by having them close their eyes. I've always had them kind of keep their eyes open, and then I realized, oh, this is actually a good idea for a number of different reasons. And from the very beginning, especially because a lot of my meditation teaching in the beginning was when I was a high school English teacher, and so I was working with young people, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to tell them to meditate for any more than 2 to 5 minutes a day, because if I tell them to meditate for any longer, they're going to just not do it. And so I still do that. I still do that in my groups. So that's another sort of piece of advice or something that I'm really attached to. Maybe that's not so Buddhist to be attached to it, but to say, a meetable goal. And
Yes.
generally 5 minutes is a meetable goal. If you do 5 minutes a day, the guarantee I give them, I say, therapists can't give guarantees, but here's one. If you do this mindfulness practice 5 minutes a day for 2 weeks, you'll come back to me and say, you're this much calmer and you're this much more focused. So that's kind of, and then take it from there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for talking with me about your practice a little bit and what you're doing professionally.